She stood motionless in the hallway, gripping her frayed backpack like a shield. Her camouflage jacket, heavy with meaning, drew glances like a spotlight. Laughter erupted behind her, shrill and cruel. Nice Halloween costume, soldier girl. Someone jeered, followed by snickers. But she didn't react, didn't flinch, didn't utter a word. Her footsteps remained steady, boots tapping rhythmically against the scuffed linoleum floor. In that moment, her silence spoke louder than their ridicule ever could. Her name was Ellie Harper, and today was Veteran Appreciation Day at Franklin High. The hallways were draped in red, white, and blue. Teachers handed out miniature flags. Students wore patriotic t-shirts with slogans they barely understood. But Ellie hadn't dressed to match the crowd. She hadn't come for a celebration. She came to remember. The camouflage jacket wasn't for show, it was a relic. It had once belonged to her older brother, Lance Corporal Ryan Harper. He wore it during his final deployment overseas. Ellie never saw him again. The jacket still carried traces of sand and diesel in its threads. It carried echoes of war, of sacrifice, of a farewell that never became a return. Every stitch held a fragment of pride and a shadow of grief. Ryan was 18 when he enlisted. 19 when the folded flag arrived at their doorstep. That flag still rests atop the fireplace in their living room, unmoving, unspoken, a scream caught in time. No one at school knew. Ellie never told them. She never had to. Grief, after all, doesn't always need an audience. She had walked into school that morning to honor him. But the world had other plans. At lunch, the cruelty resumed. Laughter once again pierced the room. Someone tell G.I. Jane this isn't boot camp. A voice rang out. A teacher glanced up, registered the moment, and then looked away. No one intervened. Ellie sat alone at the far edge of the cafeteria, her brother's name stitched above her heart. She traced the embroidery with her thumb, her meal untouched. Silence wrapped around her like armor. But across the room, someone was paying attention. Coach Dillard, a retired Army Ranger turned gym teacher, had noticed the jacket. He saw the way Ellie carried herself, quiet but resolute. That evening, he made a single phone call. The next night was Friday, the school's football game. As always, the bleachers overflowed. Students, faculty, families, and locals packed the stands. The marching band tuned their instruments. Cheerleaders practiced their chants. Ellie stood near the edge of the field, alone once more, her camouflage zipped up to her chin despite the warm evening air. At precisely 6:45 p.m., the atmosphere shifted. A low rumble echoed across the sky, heads tilted upward. The earth seemed to tremble. It wasn't thunder. A Black Hawk helicopter appeared on the horizon. Gasps swept through the stadium as the enormous aircraft descended onto the football field. Wind and dust swirling in a tempest. The bleachers shook. The rotor's roar silenced every voice. The doors opened. A military crew stepped out, fully uniformed, boots crunching against the turf. They marched with solemn precision toward the sideline toward Ellie. The lead officer stopped in front of her and, without hesitation, raised his hand in a crisp salute. Ellie blinked, stunned. The entire stadium watched in breathless stillness. The officer reached into his pocket and extended something small, yet weighty, an engraved challenge coin bearing her brother's unit insignia. For those who stand, when silence is easier, it read. Her voice quivered as she finally spoke. How did you know? The commander met her eyes and replied simply, your silence spoke louder than anyone else. Behind her, the students who had once ridiculed her were now frozen. Some lowered their gazes. Others stood in awkward stillness. No one said a word. Coach Dillard stepped forward and spoke into the microphone, his voice firm and reverent. Today, we honor a true hero, not for the battle she's fought, but for the memory she carries. Applause thundered through the stadium. But Ellie didn't smile. She looked skyward, clutching the coin close to her chest. She hadn't worn that jacket to be seen. She wore it so he wouldn't be forgotten. From that day forward, no one dared mock the girl in the camouflage. And on the following Veterans Day, nearly half the student body arrived in camo, not to speak, not to show off, but to remember. Because true strength doesn't always need words. Sometimes the quietest stand is the loudest of all.